In keeping with the tradition of not having the appropriate alcohol in the appropriate glass, welcome to cider in a champagne glass. Today, I'm going to be doing a mashup of two different tags, one of which I was tagged in by the wonderful, the lovely Franny for Your Thoughts, Franny for Thought, who is the absolute queen of tags on BookTube. Okay, she did a whole like 12 days of Christmas moment and like, wow, I could not keep up. Okay, so here we are. So the first tag is the Fuck 2020 tag, which, you know, still 2021 mood. And then the other one is one I've been wanting to do for a long time, which I've seen many a person do, and that is the anti-TBR book tag. So, you know, here we go. I'm just going to answer the questions for each tag that I actually had answers for. For the Fuck 2020 tag, the first question is, what book did you enjoy at the beginning of the year? Around this time last year, I was very much enjoying Homegoing by Yajiasi, in particular because I was very much in a reading slump, because I was in school at the time, like in classes, and I was having a very hard time absorbing any information that wasn't non-fiction. And because this was historical fiction, I feel like I was able to kind of trick my brain into thinking that it was like the same kind of information it was being bombarded with. Next question is a book you were looking forward to but ended up not being that great. And I would say, what is it called? Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. Mostly because, again, when I was in that reading slump, I was like, oh, you know what I need? A fantasy moment, okay? We love fantasy. Hello? Heard so many good things about Robin Hobb and specifically the Life Ship Trader series, okay? Hello? But just, it was a no. So I'm gonna maybe try reading an audiobook this year to give it another chance, but after that, no more chances. Then we have a book that surprised you. I had a few of those in my reading journey last year. I would say Jerome by Amy McKay, just because it was a play, so I really was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Lastly, we have a book that I liked but nobody else did or doesn't talk about enough, and I'm gonna say the entire works of Vivek Shraya, because my god is she prolific, and thank goddess for that, okay? But I do not think her books are talked about enough because they are fantastic and wonderful and deserve so much more attention. Alright, let's get to the anti-TBR tag. First and foremost, I would just like to say, no bad vibes though, okay? Firstly, a popular book that everyone loves, but you have no interest in reading. And believe me when I tell you, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Okay, listen though. So, came back to BookTube and everyone had an absolute boner for this book. So I was like, alright, what's going on here? Let's investigate. Okay, so I did do my research. From everything that's been said about it, very much understand why people would like it and be drawn to it. Like I totally understand the appeal of it, okay? I see it for y'all. My issue with it is that I personally just absolutely detest reading literary fiction of that kind of vibe and tone that deals exclusively with romantic relationships. Secondly, and perhaps surprisingly to myself even, is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, because listen, I have heard nothing but good things about this book from so many different people from like all over the place. The only person who I have heard have any kind of criticism of it is Books by Linus. I do trust her opinion, but also because of what she specifically said she didn't personally appreciate about the book, which is again like this very specific way of talking about relationships, which is kind of disappointing because I was really excited to read it, and again kind of follows the very like interconnecting short story thing that I loved in Homegoing, but I just, from what I've heard, I don't think it's gonna be for me. Sorry. Next is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. Hello? May not come as a surprise. Lolita. No thank you. Listen, I know that this is not supposed to be an actual endorsement of like pedophilia, okay? I'm aware of that. However, still not gonna read it ever, okay? Also, The Virgin Suicides. I feel like, I know they're not the same, but I feel like they have a similar vibe, and it's a vibe that I say no thank you to. Then we have an author or a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. I mean, I think Atwood. I think, you know what I'm saying? Also, who I think is kind of teetering on the line between author, problematic author at this point, maybe, I don't really know, is Hanya Yanagihara. I will never read A Little Life. Okay, there is nothing you could do to make me read that book. Sorry about it. Now we have an author whose books you may have read a couple of, but have decided that they're just not for you. My answer for this question is Neil Gaiman. Okay, to be fair, I only read Neverwhere, and I have listened to one of his short stories on like the LeVar Burton podcast. The short story was fine. Neverwhere, on the other hand, was not okay. Okay, and I don't understand why everyone thinks he's like a genius. Like I really don't get it. My issue with Neverwhere is that the way that he wrote about the literal child character from the perspective of like a grown-ass man was so not okay to me. And the way that the women characters were written in terms of there's a lot about sacrificing in order for the average mediocre white male British man to succeed in this story. Like, it was so disappointing, to be honest, and I don't really understand the hype about his work. Then we have a genre you have no interest in reading or tried to get into it and just couldn't, you know? My answer to this would be like the Scandi noir genre of like thriller mystery books. I don't know if you remember this, but like 5 years or so ago, kind of after the success of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, there became like this whole genre, at least in North America, of Scandinavian noir, thriller, crime, what have you. And so I picked up a series of this because I was just looking for something like fun to read, you know what I'm saying? Like during the summer when I wasn't in classes. And so I picked up the series, I can't remember what the series is called. I think it's like Department Q or something by UC Adler-Olsen. One thing I did appreciate about that series that I thought was interesting was how much class is paid attention to in terms of like the characters' observations of like, this is the beer of the proletariat, and just it seemed to be at a consciousness in a different way than I had been used to. However, by the second one, because the main victim of the case that was being investigated was a woman, it was just like so fucking dehumanizing. I know that there has to be like really well done thrillers, mysteries that are written by anyone other than that type of author that are really good, okay, beyond just like Gone Girl and The Girl on the Train. Like, I know they must be there, but I'm just not interested enough in the genre of writing to like go find them. You know what I'm saying? Then we have a book you bought but will never read. So a book I owned at one point was Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, because I had read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte when I was like 14 and enjoyed it at the time because it was the first classic I had really read on my own and like had understood what was happening, because I read Pride and Prejudice when I was a little bit younger than that, and also because, I mean, Pride and Prejudice isn't really a good book, just didn't really like it, and so connected more with Jane Eyre. Obviously, deeply problematic, we know, we've talked about it before, okay? I'm aware. But at one point, I did want to read one book from each of the Bronte sisters to just like Victorian literature canon moment, you know what I'm saying? So I was going to do Wuthering Heights and then The Tenant of Woodville Hall. Still would maybe read The Tenant of Woodville Hall, I don't know, but I just don't want to read Wuthering Heights, okay? I don't think I need to. Lastly, I didn't write down the full question, but I think it's to the effect of a series that you have no interest in reading, and I would say the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, okay? Because back in the day, okay, we are talking 2013, it was like the series on BookTube that was being recommended if you wanted to have a fantasy moment, you know what I mean? Just like an easy place to get into. And even though I really enjoyed the first book, I liked the magic system, I thought it was like well done enough to be like entertaining and engaging, but like by no means a masterpiece, but it didn't need to be, you know what I mean? So I was okay with it. Near the end, there was one thing to do with disability, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember being like, noted. Like a lot of science fiction and fantasy, there's a lot about oppression, you know what I'm saying? However, white authors in particular tend to just take real life oppression and fantasize it in a way as if that's not like exactly what has or is currently happening. So for instance, in the Mistborn trilogy, it's supposed to be this kind of medieval serf situation in terms of like the ruling class and whatever. However, it's also just very much like plantation slavery models, and that's never really interrogated in a critical sense, you know what I'm saying? And then shortly after having read that book is when Sanderson just started going off with his like very interesting and incredibly homophobic comments, and so I just, you know, gave up on the series. Thank you so much to Franny for tagging me in the first tag, okay? You should definitely check her out. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!